Welcome to Murder She Ate Wednesday. A lot of people love it. An equal amount of people hate it, I would say.
No, that's
Not equal amount, but a vocal minority.
yeah.
What's going on, guys?
Do you want all these plates right here?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay.
Why?
And then just moving it all over.
So we're doing a different thing today. We're doing one big case, a big boy as we call it, as opposed to two smaller cases, because it's a big one, so it's enough information to cover just by itself in 1 hour. Because usually we do smaller ones. This one has a lot of details. A lot of you guys have probably heard of it. The disappearance of Madeleine McCann.
And you guys will probably have a lot more input in this one because it's so well known, and we're not going to hit every single detail.
And if you're new, we talk about crimes. We don't talk about keto much at all, and we eat dinner together. You guys can eat with us.
What do you got for dinner?
Yeah, what do you got for dinner? I have some broccoli here and butter, and then Mega made turkey burgers and bacon
On the smoker.
on the smoker.
I didn't know you could do bacon so well on the smoker. It tastes really good. And then I have some mushroom and onions I cooked up, sauteed, and then I put some raw cheddar on my burger. So, like we said, we're doing Madeleine and McCann. Let me pop this cheddar.
So, most people, I would think, if you're somewhat into true crime, you would have heard of this case. You probably have an opinion on it. So, it's important to not be so diehard in your opinion. Be open to changing your mind. Because I think the first time I heard this case, I heard a theory and I was like, bingo, that's exactly what happened. I never
Same.
thought of that before. That's 100% right. But since that day,
It evolved.
I've definitely, I think, changed my mind. Now I'm not sure. I'm leaning an opposite way, I would say. But it's definitely like a toss-up. I don't know. There's a lot of elements. There's a few real key elements to the case, I would say, that shape your opinion.
Everyone definitely, I would say, feels strongly in one way or the other. There's no like, I'm not sure.
I don't feel too strongly. Because...
After like doing a lot of reading, and there's a documentary series. I think it's 4-part. What is it on? Netflix?
No, it was like 8 parts.
Oh, it might be on like Netflix
6
or something.
parts. I will say, if you saw the documentary on Netflix, it's biased towards the family not being involved. Slightly biased.
Really?
All documentaries are a little biased.
Yeah, I was wondering who actually paid for or like sponsored it.
The McCann family wasn't involved in the documentary.
Oh, that's good.
And I think to really understand the case, you have to like watch some interviews and get to know the family a little bit, because it's really like their character plays into it pretty heavily. Dogs don't lie. So we'll get to that. We will get to that for sure. I can't eat because Mega's filling up her water bottle.
You can tell them how we're gonna do it though. Like
Oh, yeah, so Mega's going to be the narrator because I think she's more of a reliable narrator. And then I'll interject with some additional info because I did like some deep dives on certain aspects of the case. Also, in this case, there's... like if you saw the documentary, they go down a lot of angles that don't really matter that much. Like they go into the potential suspects for a really long time that ended up not really being suspects.
Well, I guess we'll talk about that, but I think they go so heavily into it is because the police go so heavily into it.
Yeah.
Like, all the suspects are very, very much, like, discussed and, like, looked into for, like, days on days, which I think speaks to the case and the fact that they were, like, looking more for her. They were just trying to find a suspect to pin it on. But we'll definitely get to that. So we are doing the disappearance of Madeleine McCann. So Maddie was 3 years old when she went missing on May 3rd, 2007. She was on vacation with her family in Praia de Luz in Portugal, which is a very common tourist spot for Britishers. So at the time, it was like vacation time and a lot of Britishers were there. It was very like populated.
I think they'd been there before too, right?
Yeah. And so Kate and and Jerry McCann, the parents were there, along with Maddie and then her younger twin brother and sister. So there was 3 kids in total. And they were also there with 5 other friends and like their kids. So there were 7 adults in total and I think 8 kids.
No, I think there was 9 adults total.
No, it's 7.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're called the Tapas 7.
Oh, okay.
It's because they are always at a tapas bar. So Maddie had blonde hair. Are you showing this picture?
This is Madeleine.
So cute. Blonde hair, bluish green eyes, and she had a stripe down one of her brown eyes, or one of her eyes that was really dark brown. So very distinctive. Like you would know if you saw those eyes. And both of her parents were practicing doctors, very religious, Roman Catholic, and they were just seen essentially as good people in society, like, you know, high-end, like doctors who are, you know, just like good people overall.
Yeah, after all this goes down, they're like hanging out at the local church pretty regularly.
They go every day.
Every day after she disappears, and they're like friends with the pastor, things like that.
Well, for good reason. I mean, they're praying for their daughter to come back.
Yeah.
So, like I said, they were there with 5 other friends and then 5 other children. And they were staying at like a vacation apartment or a complex. It wasn't a hotel. So,
Like a resort.
Yeah, more like a resort. So the McCanns were staying in 5A, which is important to note. It was accessible by the street. So like the window was on the street, and then there was like a little gated, not like secure locked, but like a small gate to go up just right onto their patio. So you could get to all of the apartments just very easily off the street, and 5A, the one they stayed in, was right off the street.
Did you say what year this was?
2007. So the complex, just to give you an idea, it was like a really big, nice, you could just stay there the entire vacation. So they had a pool, they had a tennis court, a tapas bar, and then they were just like right on the beach as well. So let's dig into the case and the facts. So on May 3rd, 2007, all 3 kids were dropped off in the morning at the kids club at the complex.
Oh, you're starting that early?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then they were picked up for lunch by their parents. And after lunch, they went straight with their parents to the pool. And this is where the last picture of Madeleine was taken at 2:29 p.m. Not the last time she was seen, but a picture of her taken.
At 2:29.
Yeah.
Did you read that apparently that morning Madeleine had woken up like with her parents not in the room also?
No.
So there's definitely like some mixed sources on what really went down, but I heard the morning before the disappearance, she woke up and her parents were gone and she was like, you know, scared, basically. She's only 3.
Yeah, very young.
That's maybe circumstantial though. I don't know if that happened.
A lot of this is like hearsay.
Not a topless bar, a tapas bar.
Tapas. It's funny. So the parents and that same day, the parents put the kids to bed at 7 p.m. that night, which is what they did routinely. Like every single day, they kind of had the same night routine.
Apparently Madeleine was really tired that day too, right?
Yeah. And Maddie was wearing pink and white Eeyore pajamas, so like we knew what she was wearing. And something to note though is that every night after the parents, all the parents, so all 7 would put their kids to bed, they would meet at the tapas bar at 8:30 p.m. They would have drinks, they'd have dinner. So it was like their time.
This was a routine.
This was a routine, yeah. It was their time to decompress. And
we'll talk about the parenting aspect of this soon. But we got a $5 donation from Keto Mimi for Life. Case suggestion, Haley Cummings, 5-year-old vanished in the middle of the night while her 17-year-old stepmother
slept in a separate room.
Wait, so 17-year-old stepmother, that means she married, a 17-year-old married a man that had a child?
Yeah, it depends on when it was, but in some states that's legal.
Interesting. I like that.
If the parents say yes.
Okay. We can definitely look into that.
Back to the case. But thank you for the donation. And so from the apartment, so from 5A, you could see the tapas bar, but from the tapas bar, you couldn't see the entire apartment. You couldn't see like the front of 5A. It had sliding doors. You couldn't see those. You could just see the top. So like the apartment above 5A.
It's a pretty distorted line of sight, but you can kind of see It's maybe 100 yards from where they're eating dinner to the apartment.
And so this is why they always they reserved the same table every night they were there, because they wanted to be able to see the apartments where the kids slept. So what are your thoughts, I guess, initially? Like, is that something you would do? Or you show you're gonna
yeah, tapas bar right here. So they're like eating somewhere in here, and this, it's pointing here, but I think it's like over here, the apartment that they were in, the one on the road here. So like, when I've seen pictures, these trees were like a lot more full, and you couldn't really see, but there's like kind of a line of sight, which I guess it doesn't really matter that much if you can see it.
I think it's like 85 meters, so it's not far, but you still have to like go around the pool.
Yeah.
You have to like take a certain way to get there. It's not like a quick hop and a jump, you know?
So did you mention that the parents are going back to check on the kids?
Yeah, we're not there yet.
Okay. So what, go ahead.
So interesting to me is that the parents, they put a note for their reservations that said the kids were alone in the apartment. So the people at the
What do you mean for their reservations?
For their dinner reservations. And they did that because they wanted to have that same table so they could see the apartment. So they made it known to the reception people or the tapas bar people who made the reservations.
That's a dumb parent move.
I know. So that's just something interesting that for me throws a wrench in the whole thing, because that means
now we're thinking like the tapas worker notified their kidnapper
the
friend.
complex knows that the kids were alone night after night. So the McCanns also never actually locked the sliding door that's like the front face of their apartment. They would just close it so it could be opened easily by someone else or by them when they're going in, but they did have the curtains closed.
Okay, so important. The only night I read that the door was unlocked was the night she disappeared. Prior nights it was locked.
Really?
I don't know if that's true or not though, but I think we need to discuss what you guys think about the fact that the parents left a 3-year-old and are they 1-year-olds?
Yeah.
A 3-year-old and 2 1-year-olds in the apartment alone. How do you guys feel about that?
No, would not leave them alone. My goodness, that's child neglect. How old were they again? 3 and 1-year-old twins.
Is it something that seems reasonable, like maybe you would do? Or is it just absolutely no? I feel like for me it's absolutely no. I would never do that.
But like British people have a different culture, right?
I don't know if it's that different.
And it was back in 2007. I don't know. And like this place in Portugal is really known for being like safe, secure, very touristy.
I don't think it's that known because there has been other disappearances in the area, like quite a high amount. But my whole thing is like factoring this behavior in when you then down the road see how they react on like their road show searching for Madeleine, how much they quote unquote care about her. It doesn't really jive with their actions on this night when they just leave their kid alone in an apartment for hours.
I mean, as we reveal more, that'll make more sense if you don't know this case at all. But I think I think that was a bad call on their part to leave their children in an unlocked apartment, because you could have just locked it, right? So the parents would take turns, however, going back to check on all the kids every 30 minutes. So Jerry, the dad, he did the first check at 9:05 p.m. and noted that all the kids were asleep. He did also note, though, that when they first left the bedroom door, it was ajar. But when he went to check on them, it was wide open. So something that's off. That would make me uncomfortable as a parent because I feel like I would remember. But he didn't think much of it, I guess, at the time. And then a second parent, Jane Tanner, she went to check on her kids at 9:15. And then walking back from the bar.
Okay, before you get to that, though, here's my whole thing. If you're leaving your kids alone in the room and then you're checking on them at 9:05 and 9:15, doesn't that seem kind of excessive? Like, wouldn't you just leave a person in the room maybe for 30 minutes? Like, you take shifts, you just have someone there. Since essentially someone's there all the time anyway, you're leaving every 5 minutes.
Well, you're confused because Jane is she's not one of the parents. She has other kids. Jane is one of the friends in the Papa 7.
Someone from the friends group is going back every like 5 minutes.
But not to check on all the kids, just their own kids.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Jerry, when he went back, he checked on his kids, and then Jane checked on her own kids, and then Kate was gonna go 9:35 to check on their kids again. So everyone's just checking on their own kids. They're not like helping each other out in that sense. And that makes sense. You want to know where your kids are, right? I would want to check on my own kids if I was going to leave them alone like that.
Yeah, you could hire a sitter, and I think the hotel even had services and stuff for this.
Yeah.
Daddy Warbucks donates $10. Sorry I'm late. Please start over from the beginning. Thank you.
You're cute.
LOL.
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, some people saying they definitely weren't checking on them every 30 minutes. I can see how a lot of this could be said retroactively once you realize, oh, the kid's gone. Now we got to act like reasonable parents.
Julius! Always doing
Come here.
this.
Joyce.
So, like I was saying, Jane Tanner went back to check on her own kids, not everyone's, at 9:15. And then walking back to the tapas bar, she stated that she saw a man in a dark brown jacket and beige pants carrying a child of Maddie's description across the road.
Okay.
But, go on.
She stated this once Madeleine was deemed missing.
Right. So this derailed the entire case for a really long time because it was so heavily looked into. But this was also noted after the fact because, like, at the time she wasn't like, oh, that's Maddie. Like, you know, you're not going to think that. It's possible. And also she was drinking.
So the man was walking on this road right here. That's where he was seen, right? Walking across this intersection.
Yeah, exactly. So when she first saw the man, she didn't think it was Maddie until after the fact. And it actually turned out, after like a long investigation into this guy, that he was just another tourist, I believe, carrying
This was years later, right?
his sleeping child. Yeah, but just like, it took a while, but he was searched like very heavily. And everyone like that was walking across the road that night, they just thought it was, you know. So she also passed Jerry on the way to check on her kids and said that he was talking to another British tourist. And Jerry also confirmed that this was true, but neither of them, to another British tourist, but neither of them recalled Jane walking past them. So I think that's just a little note that speaks to like, everyone's credibility is like, it's up in the air, right? They're drinking, they're saying things after the fact. And then Kate, the mom, had intended to go to check on the kids at 9:30, but another adult, another one of the friends, Matthew Oldfield, he offered to check on them since he was going to go check on his own kids anyway.
So, okay. My vision of this evening is like, I thought they were all leaving the kids. They're going to be having tapas together, hanging out, drinking. But now the picture I'm getting from their testimonies is like, there's people just walking all over the place. One guy's talking to another British tourist. The other girl's walking past him. Now this new guy's, there's like maybe 3 people at the table.
You're acting like this is abnormal though. You're on vacation, you're drinking.
It's very abnormal.
No.
If we were doing this with our friends, we'd all be there. One person would have gone and came back. It wouldn't be like 3 people just circulating the sidewalk, talking with British tourists and stuff.
I think you're thinking too much into it.
Okay.
I think it speaks to their testimony, sure, but it seems normal, especially with drinking involved. Do you remember like how like distracted?
They just began drinking though, right?
Yeah, but like I'm just saying. Whoa. Look at all those.
Someone's
emojis.
doing a lot of emojis. Why are you doing that?
Okay, so the friend of the Tapa 7, that's what they're dubbed, went to check on them. And he went into the sliding doors of the McCann's apartment, and he saw the bedroom door fully open and saw Sean and Emily, the twins, sleeping on their beds. But he didn't actually go fully into the room. So like you'd have to go into the room around the door to see if Maddie was there. But he just assumed they were all fine.
That makes no sense.
Since he saw the twins. I mean, he wants to get back to the drinking and the tapas.
Take 2 extra steps.
People make mistakes, right? A lot. And this was a big one for sure. So Kate then goes back at 10 p.m., 30 minutes later, to check and notices that Maddie's gone and that the window was also open. So she panics, briefly searches the apartment and doesn't see her. So she runs back to the tapas bar screaming, Maddie is gone, someone has taken her. So a couple things come up. The media's all over this. In the UK, they make a big deal out of the fact that she was asking why she would assume someone had just taken her child.
Why would you assume that?
So like
my first assumption would be, oh, she woke up and wandered off. Probably.
Yeah.
I guess it depends on your kid if you know them.
And also running back, she just left the twins sleeping. Like
Yeah.
she didn't even.
With a possible intruder hiding in like the closet with Madeleine.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, a lot's going on. Obviously, your child's missing, but you don't leave the 1-year-old twins then if you think something bad happened to Maddie. So this just, you know, points to maybe her paving the way for abduction. You know?
Robin Heron donates $1. Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. And then there was also controversy around the window being open. So according to one journalist, and the media's all over all of this, and the police are so open with the information they just share as if it's like not a big deal, that constant media, like there's constant media attention around each fact that comes out. So there's always like, people are biased completely because the media is spinning it one way or another.
Right away, this is a huge case, and there's like just Nancy Grace media coverage all over the place.
Yeah. So one of the journalists, according to him, the shutter was controlled by a pulling strap that locked once down and could only be opened from the inside. And apparently, when they had left, the window was completely closed, the shutter was down. So if that is true, then there's no way an intruder could have come in from the window, right?
I never really put much stock in the window. It was always just kind of like an irrelevant detail to me.
Then why would the window be open? Why would they leave that open?
You probably wouldn't leave the window open with your kid in there, I would think, but who knows? They left their kid alone.
Yeah.
But they still could have came in through the door. Mm-hmm. So, Ash A donates $2. Thank you.
Thank you. And sorry we're missing all these comments on Facebook and YouTube.
Nancy Grace, showing your age? Nancy Grace is still relevant. What are you talking about? Nancy Grace is still doing it.
So 10 minutes after 10 p.m., Matthew, one of the friends, informs the reception at the complex that Maddie's missing. And then at 10:30 p.m., the complex activates its missing child procedure. And then at this point, 60 staff and guests start searching for Maddie, and this goes on till 4:30 a.m. So at 10:30, the complex has called the police, and 2 officers show up at 11:30, so pretty late, right?
That's late. Missing child?
Yeah, and they search for a bit, but they find nothing. So at 12 p.m., the criminal police show up, along with 2 patrol dogs, at 2 a.m. who arrive, and then search and rescue dogs at 8 a.m. So slowly over the course of the night, as the golden hours are passing by, they're just trickling in these dogs and these officers. It's like not really looked at. It's like as if they didn't really think much into it. They're like, these Britishers, you know. But I don't know.
Is Britishers a word? You keep saying it.
What would I say? The British?
Brits?
Oh, I always said Britishers.
Britishers?
Maybe I'm wrong.
I thought you read it somewhere, so you're like saying it a lot.
No, I'm just using it.
Angie K, $5 and a very nice comment. You guys are such a key inspiration in my weight loss and self-improvement journey. Please keep posting your awesome videos. 6 butterflies.
Oh, I love the butterflies. Thank you.
Nancy retired? Oh, I listen to her podcast once in a while still. She still has a podcast then.
This isn't chicken. This is turkey. Someone said it looks dry.
It is very dry.
Is it?
Yeah, it's dry.
I put you should put cheese on yours.
It's pretty dry.
That's turkey though. Turkey for
Turkey's
you.
always dry.
Okay, so let's look at the mistakes during these golden hours, because there's several of them, and it's super frustrating because it's like the police in Portugal have no idea what they're doing. So the police had no description of Maddie until several hours later, so they were just looking for a random child, which is really bad.
I'm sure they had the basics, blonde hair.
No, they didn't.
According to who? So there's a lot of information in this. It's basically like, I think, didn't the McCanns hire a publicist? Like they had some PR people.
Much later.
Yeah, much later. But basically a lot goes into how competent the Portugal police are versus like the McCanns giving their perspective on that. Because a big thing at play is Portugal's like tourism. It matters to them, so they don't want like missing little white babies there, because that's where like all the tourists come from, right? So it's a bad look. So they want it to just be, I guess they eventually want it to be the parents. That would be the dream scenario.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's
Okay, so there was also no house-to-house searches, no blocks put in place until 10 a.m. the next morning. So that's 12 hours later. So that's pretty severe. That's a loss of time. The crime scene was also not secured at all. So at least 20 people walking in and out of the scene. So evidence being tampered with. fingerprints being all over the place. Can you get Julius? What is happening?
Julius!
So that's a huge issue, right? Like, if there was any evidence of someone coming in, that could just be completely ruined and gone by now. And then also, when they were doing the searching of the DNA and the dusting, they weren't wearing gloves or protective clothing. They were just like really nonchalant about all of this, unfortunately. So something to note is that the British police do get involved. And there's lots of tension between the Portuguese and the British police. Obviously, they didn't like the British police being involved. It's a bad look for them, as Matt said. And they didn't work together in this case, which is an issue, right? Like, they're worried about one another as opposed to the actual safety of this child. And then, as I mentioned, the media. The massive media was hindering the case heavily, constantly putting people on blast, suspects, facts on blast, spinning it a certain way.
Well, it's understandable. You don't just want the British police to come in and do your job. You want to do your own job.
No, for sure. But, like, the common goal should be to find this child, right? So soon after the disappearance, the McCanns did several interviews. They traveled around a lot. They like flew places and they spoke about her constantly and almost like marketed her, right? In a way that it seemed like a business plan. Jerry even said, he told Vanity Fair in 2008 that he had decided to market Madeleine to keep her in the public eye. So this could be looked at a couple ways, which we can discuss.
It can only be looked at as a smart move.
Yeah, so they wanted to just keep her in the public eye so that people wouldn't forget about her, and that meant like doing tons of interviews. But to a lot of people, it looked like they were just like trying to make money off of this and like trying to get famous and like.
Did it look like that? Maybe.
I mean, the documentary we saw.
Did they write a book or something?
I don't know. So we can also talk about the interviews themselves. So in the interviews, they never cried or looked like too sad from what I'd seen. And they were both pretty stiff, but they went to church every day. So like that was also filmed by the media. And then the mom did carry her like cat, I think, stuffed animal around that Maddie was sleeping with that night. So I don't know. That's obviously very symbolic. You want to keep that with you.
Yeah.
And so that's like the big facts of the day, what happened, she went missing, and the parents.
So in watching the documentary, my thinking is the parents, like, they really put themselves through a lot of scrutiny and stuff just to seem like they wanted to have a better chance of finding Madeleine by always being in the media and stuff. Because whenever they would do an interview, everyone, like Nancy Grace, was just like, those are the killers, you can tell by their expressions and stuff. And you wouldn't do that unless you really wanted to find your daughter, I think. That's what it seemed like to me. Yeah, doing all the interviews.
Yeah. Sorry, one sec. Let me. Okay, so we can talk about suspects.
The suspects are boring, though. Just skim through them quick.
Well, the parents are suspects.
Well, okay.
So, Robert Murat was the first suspect on the list, and this will be quick, he lived near 5A, their apartment, with his mother, and his place was in the direction that the man walking with the brown clothes on was walking. So they thought like maybe that could have been Robert Murat. That was just before we found out that the man walking was just another British tourist. And then 3 of the 7 tapas.
Wasn't Robert Murat also helping out with the investigation a lot? And they got kind of suspicious because of how he was acting?
So 3 of the 7 say that they were like sure it was Murat who did this. And then he was also, as Matt said, asking a lot of questions about the case, which made it suspicious because they showed, in the documentary, they showed that there was another similar case and the guy who was like really asking questions and trying to help out ended up being the killer. So they were kind of just like analogizing, it seemed, right?
Well, this is a known thing. People that commit crimes want to like get close to the investigation.
They were really just trying to pin it on him for a while.
I'm having one of these for dessert. These are really good. We bought like 2 bags of them. They're so expensive though.
Yeah, put them at Whole Foods. So eventually
he was a translator. Robert Murat.
Yeah, and eventually, like, he was heavily harassed though and slandered in the media. His car was lit on fire.
Because he was the first named suspect.
But eventually, the dogs come in. They find nothing after searching his stuff, and he sued for libel, and he won in court, which is good for him. Then there's the parents. So a lot of people believe the parents are responsible. So is this a witch hunt? Or is there some factual, basis to this? And
I mean,
we'll talk about why.
The parents should definitely be the primary suspect.
I agree. So big things to note is, well, one, it was irresponsible to leave them alone at night, obviously. But two, the McCanns were doctors. So it was said, we don't know for sure, that they were slipping the kids sleeping pills so that they would stay asleep through the night. And maybe Maddie had an adverse reaction, or she was overdosed with the sleeping medication, and she was given so much that she died, and they were just scared, so they hid her body. So that's a really, really big theory out there. And then we can talk about reasons for guilt. I think this is very interesting, and this will be like where you'll probably come in a lot because you're gonna love it. So the British police brought in cadaver dogs.
Well, first I want to talk about the drugging.
Go for it.
So when I heard that, I was like, that's the golden ticket. That checks all the boxes. That's exactly what happened. It makes a lot of sense. Since they were like just leaving their kid, abandoning their kid in an apartment in a foreign country to drink with their friends, that they would drug them. I don't know if the police found any over-the-counter drugs on them that they would use for this purpose.
Right.
But like, also they're doctors, so it's pretty, unless she had some kind of reaction, it's hard for me to believe that they would have overdosed her, because there's like a huge margin of error with these like sleeping pills, like Benadryl and stuff. You can take like 20 of them and it doesn't kill you.
A 3-year-old can?
No, like a 3-year-old can probably take like 10 of them and it'll be fine. They probably gave her one. So unless she had some kind of weird reaction to it, that would definitely make sense. But my whole thing is like, I think an important detail to figure out this case could be the last known sighting of her, 229.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever there's a missing kid and the parents just have the kid and we're listening to what the parents say happened, the remainder of the time I'm like, okay, the last time she was known to be alive is 229, probably an hour after that since she was like at a pool. But we don't know what time she could have died. She could have died at like 4. And then this whole night was just an elaborate ploy to kind of cover up the death, the accidental death.
What? So how would the accidental death have happened? I didn't even think about that.
I don't know.
But like
In
just
that
something
scenario.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So can I go on?
Yeah. Now the dogs.
Yeah, so the British you love this. You're gonna show the video?
They're the cutest dogs. Drug
Are
dogs.
you showing a video?
Yeah.
I'm gonna die. This is so cute. So British police brought in cadaver dogs, and traces of blood, or death, were captured in the trunk of the car and on the driver's door that the McCanns rented 3 weeks after her disappearance.
We're already getting some misinformation in chat here. They did not find her blood in the living room floor. This is not correct. We'll be clearing this up though. And there is a huge margin of error on these medications. You can take like 10 times the dosage and not die.
So where was she for 3 weeks before they rented the car, if in fact Madeleine's dead body was in the rented car?
Okay, are we doing the dog thing?
Did you hear my question?
What did you say?
Where was she for 3 weeks if they rented the car 3 weeks later and her body, apparently her cadaver was in there?
They moved it. That would be the theory.
Right, but where do you think they stored it?
Like off in the mountains somewhere, just like some random place. But I don't believe that that's what happened.
Okay, go on, show the video.
Okay. This person keeps doing emojis and I keep blocking them and stuff, but like...
The only person we've ever blocked is someone who uses a lot of emojis.
Yeah. So the video, the dogs, they're the cutest little dogs. I love them. Because they're so happy when they get to do their searching.
I know, they're so cute. It's a sad, though, search.
So... Okay, so he unleashes the dog in a parking garage. This is a cadaver dog. And this is the rental car.
No, that's not it. This
This
one's
is it. Look how excited it is. Its tail.
He. Or she. Oh, found it.
So
Found
she
it.
alerts there. And this is the key evidence. This is like the only hard evidence in the whole case. So your opinion on this really shapes your view of it.
Well, it should, yeah. So what is the reliability of cadaver dogs?
And then this is the dog in the trunk. Which it didn't show, but it did alert there.
It alerted a spot
On the trunk.
in the trunk, and it just put his nose on it.
And then we're not doing the house yet. Hopefully
Right.
this isn't lagging our stream. Is this lagging the stream?
Someone let us know. Is it lagging the stream? Daddy Warbucks, thank you for the $5 donation. Hey, off topic, but do you know if kratom affects ketosis? Is that a serious question?
I don't think so. Kratom does have some carbs just because it's like a ground up leaf powder, so like similar to green tea.
We
so
did-
like what?
We did a video on kratom
Yeah.
a while ago.
It shouldn't affect ketosis though.
Okay, back.
Okay, it's not slowing down the stream. Yeah.
So traces of death were also found behind the couch in the living room of 5A. You would know.
Okay, so now this is the dogs in the apartment.
And like on a shelf or something, right?
So yeah, the one dog alerts right here.
How cute!
They just love it. And they just stand there and bark until someone acknowledges them.
They're so cute.
And then this is where the other one is. It's behind the couch there. They alert. Look at this little tail.
You know, nub.
It really just climbs all over the place. So yeah, right there behind the couch, it alerts. So it's important to know that both dogs, there's a blood dog, and the blood dog doesn't bark, it just
Puts its
puts
nose
its nose and it doesn't move.
on the spot.
Nothing could make the dog move once it gets its spot.
Except a treat, maybe.
No, not even a treat. See, like right there, it's pointing. It's not moving. Okay, so that's the dogs alerting.
How do you just press remove?
Yeah. No, I put like hide on user in this channel.
Okay.
And I have one other thing we can look at here. This is the layout of the room. So this is the blue sofa that the one dog, both dogs alerted on. And then this is apparently where Madeleine slept. This is where the two twins slept. So I guess the idea is the person who came to check, like the line of sight just went like this and he saw the two twins, but he didn't open the door. He
Yeah.
didn't take like one further second to check on Madeleine, which makes no sense. And then the other alert, I don't know where that was. This is the window in question though.
A lot of people are believing the dogs. They're like, dogs don't lie.
Yeah.
Dogs are the best evidence. So I'm a big believer in cadaver dogs, blood sniffing dogs as well. But
100%. That was my initial reaction too. I was like, the dogs don't lie, of course. So should we go into the accuracy of cadaver dogs?
yeah, sure.
First off, important note. So cadaver dogs are not used in court. Like you can't say cadaver dog alerted here, therefore death,
Guilt,
right?
yeah.
Because it could be, there's been cases where the cadaver dog alerted to something that happened in that area that wasn't part of the investigation that they were investigating. It was just like, you know, like a carpenter cut himself, something like that. So the cadaver dogs lead to the finding of evidence. So you need the subsequent evidence to validate the cadaver dogs, or else it doesn't matter. So in this case, there was no subsequent evidence, despite what the person in chat is saying, that was found at these locations. So there was no blood, no DNA of Madeleine anywhere found.
They didn't have like clothes of hers?
Well, they've had clothes, but there was no blood. There was no indication of foul play. So the fact that the dog alerted, the blood dog, and there was no actual blood there, puts into question the training of the dogs. Because if you look at the stats on cadaver and blood dogs, they're at certain sources you'll see if they're properly trained, they have a 95% accuracy rate.
Oh, wow.
And they can detect remains 15 feet underground. And then I was thinking, like, okay, so the fact that both dogs alerted at 95%, that means it's like 99.9% chance that something happened here. But the fact that they both have the same trainer means they're both subject to the same errors and they likely have the same behavior. So it's probably still just 95%. And then reading a report of someone so I was trying to look what an actual person who trains cadaver dogs thought about these tapes and stuff. So I found a report of this, and I just want to read word for word what they said, because I think this pretty much dictates the whole case, if you can trust the cadaver dog 100% or not. At first I thought you could. I no longer think that.
Real quickly, Paula Green, thank you for the $10. Thanks for all the great information you put out there. Love Murder She Ate. Yay.
Okay, so here's the quote. I'm a cadaver dog handler, and I think there's a very high chance of false positives in this case. The first thing to consider is that there were 2 dogs, but there was only 1 handler, and most false alerts are handler error. There were huge breaches of search protocol in the vehicle search. Any dog, this is key, any dog will eventually give a false alert if you keep telling them to work the same area over and over, which is what might have happened. It's been a while since I read it, but I recall that the pattern of alerts in the apartment also made me suspicious that they were reworking the dogs over the same areas over and over again.
It did look like it kind of.
It did when you watched the documentary. So they were basically just asking for a false alert. And then even if the alerts were correct, though, we're talking about hotel rooms / vehicles where who knows what could have occurred. Someone crashes their bike and bleeds all over their clothes, then drops them in the trunk of the car and fluid soaks to the upholstery. That could be enough to get a cadaver dog alert, even though it has no relevance to the McCann case. And dogs are pretty amazing. I have a tremendous amount of faith in mine, and all of their alerts have been backed up by forensic evidence. I'd still never convict someone just based on the evidence they provide, especially since on a few occasions that forensic evidence showed that while the alert was correct, there was actually blood there. It had nothing to do with the actual mission we were on.
Okay, so
when I first looked at this case, I believe the dog's 100%. Now I think there's a higher than likely chance that it's nonsense. But yeah, I mean, it's... Okay, this user just keeps... Like, who does this? It must be a bot of some kind, just doing emojis constantly.
I can't even block them, though. Just hide?
Yeah, I don't know.
We've never actually done it.
I deleted a bunch of their messages.
I'm hiding them, so I think
Me
that'll
too.
actually...
I did that too.
Okay.
So, that's kind of the deal with the cadaver dogs.
Your belief in cadaver dogs?
In this instance, when I can see the actual footage of them and it seemed like they were telling them where to go and like reworking the same area.
Yeah, they definitely did that. And I was like thinking that when I saw it too, but I didn't know like percentage wise how accurate they were. So I guess, yeah, that's tough, especially because it was the same handler. All right, so could I move on?
Yeah.
So the parents, as I noted before, were also acting weird in interviews. They were always looking at one another before answering questions, and they really just came across as emotionless. So I guess if you were the McCann husband or wife and you were accused, how do you think you would react in interviews?
How would you react if you're accused? I don't know how I'd react. I'd react like I'm trying to find my daughter. I wouldn't really care. But you're
pretty emotionless, right? Generally. So
yeah.
I think Matt would come off as very emotionless. But I think the looking back and forth at one another when answering questions seems plausible or like reasonable because they're under suspicion. They don't want to like give off a bad answer, right? So you're kind of... You need to be on the same page.
I think you just wouldn't care. I think you're trying to find your daughter. Who cares, like, if you're being accused?
But you're under so much scrutiny by the media.
But you don't care because you're trying to find your daughter, which is all that matters to you. You don't care about being under scrutiny.
Well, they clearly did care because they were...
No, they actually, I think, showed a good case of them not caring too much.
Kate was interviewed by the police and refused to answer 48 out of 49 of the questions, saying no comment, even though she was represented. And they were
Yeah.
they were basic questions you would answer if your child was missing.
I think that was more when she was in like protest mode. Like these police aren't helping at all, so I'm just protesting.
But you don't. You just said you wouldn't care. You would just. You would help, right? Regardless.
If I think the police are incompetent and me answering questions will do more, like I can just protest and maybe
do what? Do damage?
No, like you don't have confidence in the police, so you're protesting by not answering.
I don't know. I don't think that's mature because you shouldn't protest something. You should be willing to give information regardless, especially if you're represented. It's not like she was being held against her. Well, I don't know if she was held against her will, but she was accused. She was yeah. Anyway, I thought that was weird. I don't understand why she would say no comment to 48. I guess, what do you guys think? Would you answer all the questions?
That's what Lil Wayne did when he got interrogated.
I would still answer, but not protest ever. That's so dumb. Exactly. Even if you're frustrated with the police, you'd help. Guilty parents. So I don't know. It could be taken either way, right? We're both kind of split. And then Kate washed the stuffed animal, apparently, which is weird. I think that's weird. As a mother, you want the scent of your child. Why would you wash it, right?
Seems weird. Maybe like, yeah, I don't know why you would wash it because you don't really wash stuffed animals ever.
Hide them. Okay. And then the McCanns returned to England on September 9th. So how long would you stay? Went missing on May 7th, so what's that? May, June, July. 4 months? 3 months?
That seems pretty reasonable to me. Yeah, like
4 months?
I think for like the first month, you're just not even thinking. You're just like acting like an instinctual animal. And then like maybe 3 months down the road, you're like, what should we do? Like we can't just stay here forever. Yeah.
You got to get back to your life. Yeah. So that's really a lot about the parents and things that I thought were interesting. Do you have anything else about the parents?
No, I just think that unless you watch their interviews, and I think the documentary, the one, it's on Netflix, it does a good job of giving you the full picture of what the parents were going through, and you can draw your own conclusions on their motives doing what they were doing. To me, it seemed like they were undergoing just like a lot of torture from the public to pursue their daughter. That's the impression I got. Unless they have some kind of crazy like fame addiction thing where they just don't care if it's positive or negative, they just want to be famous. It seemed to me like they really were putting up with a lot just to try getting their daughter more publicity.
Yeah. So a couple other, I think the other suspects aren't.
Then I think the thing is like, how do you reconcile that with the fact that they just left their 3-year-old daughter in an apartment by herself? It doesn't really add up, right? That you're gonna like go to the ends of the earth for your missing daughter, but while she's alive and they're her 2 twin brothers and sisters, you just leave them in a foreign country's apartment building?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So one downside was there was inconsistencies between the Tapa 7, like the 5 and then the McCanns, like their stories. There was inconsistencies when they were interviewed, but this seems also reasonable because the Portuguese police were asking the questions and then they were translated. So if they were translated differently, then you might give different answers. So that's just something to think about as well.
One thing to consider when you're coming up with this maybe alternative theory, not a kidnapping, it's an inside job. Is it a 2-person conspiracy or is it a 7-person conspiracy? Or like, more than 2-person?
Right. That was also discussed, like all the friends were in collusion.
To me, it's got to be 2. There's no way it's a 7-person conspiracy, right?
I don't think so. Not if you're a parent. Like when I'm a parent, if my friend accidentally murdered their child and tells me to keep it secret, I couldn't do that. With or without a child, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if my best friend in the world, I'd probably do what's necessary to protect them.
I would say I would try and convince them that the best interest is to say what happened. Like, honestly. Just so, I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you drugged your kid and she died, then you go to jail for like 10 to 20 years.
Yeah, but then you're complicit also in that child's murder as the best friend.
Everyone says Succession on HBO is slow. I didn't find it slow at all. I was pretty engaged from after like the first 30 minutes.
I'm surprised Matt liked it.
Oh, I love it. It's the best.
Because it's, I mean, if you like family dynamics, that's definitely like my thing. Like Parenthood, like, what's it called? All of Us, not This Is Us. Just like family dynamics, Succession's really up that alley. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, Maddie could have wandered off, drowned in the beach, hit by a
So theories? We're on theories?
I said we were doing theories.
Okay, so the big theory, which we didn't really talk much about, is it kind of went down the way that the parents thought it went down. Someone got in, kidnapped them. The two main theories are like an active pedophile type guy in the area or sex trafficking, which both are like relatively prominent in the area. That's possible, right? I mean, there's no real evidence there's no evidence at all in the case.
Yeah.
So that's possible. Then I think the more interesting theory is, so what do you guys think? Do you think that's reasonable? Of course it's reasonable, but do you think that's what happened? One other theory that not many people talk about is parents paid for her abduction, or like, I don't know why they would have done this, but maybe they just like didn't want her anymore.
Seems less likely.
Or maybe she died and then they paid like the cleanup crew to come in and make it look like a disappearance.
Just seems very unlikely.
Seems kind of unlikely, yeah. The most likely scenario then to me, along with the sex trafficking, is the parents drugged her and she died. And they apparently sell like a sedative for children. It's called Calpol.
In Portugal or in Britain? England?
In wherever, in Europe.
Okay.
So that's what the police theorize. They say Calpol overdose and she died. Currently picking the perfect name. Donates $2. I start Deeper State Keto on Sunday. Cheers and thanks.
Okay, that's exciting. Sorry, okay.
And then another reasonable scenario is that Madeleine just wandered off and drowned or died in some other way.
Yeah.
But Calpol is paracetamol in liquid form.
Paracetamol.
That's it, guys. What do you think? What's your theory?
That like someone who's watching them and knew their routine, because they had a note that the kids were home alone, and I think that somehow, triggered someone to like come in and take them, or they just took them trafficking purposes. But yeah, I feel like the resort knew too much, like the fact that the kids were home alone.
Okay,
and
so
the parents were doing the same thing night after night. So if you know, it's really easy.
Portugal is also like a first world really nice country, right? It's not like Bolivia or like something like that where there's just like you tell the front desk your kid's alone in the room and they like call up their kidnapping buddy.
But so is the U.S., but we have trafficking here a lot.
Yeah, but if you told a front desk at a hotel that your kids were alone, would you think that someone would find out about that? They'd like call up a kidnapper?
I would never tell them though,
No,
because
of course. Why would you? It doesn't make sense.
So my belief is like if I did tell them, I would think my kids could be harmed. Yeah, that's what I would think. Regardless of how nice it is,
Do you know how high the window is off the ground? No. Was it second floor?
No, it's first floor.
First
5A.
floor. First floor. So I guess my final theory, it's like the least fun theory, but I think she may have just been kidnapped.
Yeah.
But then the question is, why would you take her and not one of the little kids?
Isn't like her age and the way she looks more better for trafficking? A 1-year-old,
Maybe.
you're less like a 3-year-old. I feel like is prime, right? I don't know.
Probably.
That's weird.
I don't know
to
what
say.
the prime trafficking ages are yet.
But I think a 3-year-old would be preferred to 1-year-olds, especially because of how adorable she was.
Was Madeleine diagnosed with anything?
Not
No.
that we know of.
Drugged in daycare during the day, super sleepy that night, sit and wait until they are alone. That's a reasonable theory, except that she was photographed at 229, like at the pool playing, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like the drugging, because she was at daycare before that, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like the drugging took place.
She could have been scouted out at the kids club.
Yeah.
And they like knew. I don't know. I feel like that's way more plausible than the parents. But that's just me. People keep saying acetaminophen is not a sedative, but that's not what we said it is. Or someone said that on Facebook.
Maybe he hid in the closet with Madeleine, and when the mom came in, she interrupted him and he ran with her only.
Yeah, maybe he wasn't trying. He wanted all three.
Oh. Oh. Yeah. Not a bad idea. Someone's a criminal mastermind over here.
Daddy Warbox, thank you for the $9.99. I want to open a keto restaurant in Walnut Creek, California. If I'm successful, please expect an invite to the opening.
Oh.
Please expect us to come and eat everything.
Yeah, Walnut Creek, that's like an hour from San Francisco, right?
Yeah.
Love it out there.
Do you though? Because we were there recently and you were like, I'm over
I
this.
loved it.
I don't think you did.
So you can't really go back and recreate certain parts of your
Magic.
life. Yeah, you can't recreate magic. You know, it's like if you put LeBron, Ray Allen, and Chris Bosh back on the same team right now, it wouldn't really be great, you know? May 4th, 2019 update. Sky News can reveal the new suspect in the Madeleine McCann case is a German man already being investigated over alleged child sex offenses. Yeah, I read that earlier today.
Paracetamol is acetaminophen. So someone told us that Calipol is paracetamol. Is that all true? I have no idea. We're just
Acetaminophen, is
we're
that
making a chain of it.
what's in Benadryl? Is that acetaminophen?
No, that's Tylenol.
Oh.
You do know the parents had a friendship with a known pedophile who lived in Portugal.
They had a friendship? No, I haven't heard that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of rumors in this case that are unsubstantiated.
Yeah.
Matt, you're East Bay all the way? No, is West Bay a thing? That's just San Francisco, right? East
Yeah.
Bay is Oakland?
No, East Bay is just like all that area.
Oh. Benadryl is diphenhydramine.
Calpol makes you drowsy. Oh, it's like Tylenol PM. Okay, that makes sense. All right, enough about the drugs. Do you guys have more ideas?
I wish we could figure out what happened in this case. There's just a select few cases. I wish I could have been there when it happened. Not like actually, but just kind of hovering over, ghost-like, and seeing like Mara Murray. That would be a great one to just see what happened.
You know.
Madeleine McCann.
Yeah, there's so many. Children under 5 are the most expensive thing on the black market, someone said.
After kidneys,
I feel like kids are more expensive than kidneys.
probably. How are you getting these up-to-date black market prices? Like,
A lot of people are here today.
yeah, Casey Anthony is going to be a good one. The thing when we do these solo big boy cases is they're really like in-depth and elaborate, and everyone kind of already has opinions on them,
Which is good. I
which
like that.
makes it good. But it also makes it harder to do because, you know, people are holding us more accountable because they all have their little like evidence that they think makes a big difference.
But if you have info that we just aren't aware of or we didn't
Yeah,
research,
then
that's
chat it.
I like that. Yeah.
Because we got to do Adnan. Adnan is like the biggest one.
Adnan.
Adnan.
No, Adnan's fine. Yeah, that would be a good one to do. I
There's
would
just so much evidence.
I would have to re-listen to Serial and like just write. It would be a long thing. I don't know if we'll have time to do that ever in our lives.
John Benet Ramsey is a good one.
We could do Jean Benet. Jean Benet.
I like, who's the girl? Amanda Knox. That's a good one.
I like Casey Anthony as well.
Casey Anthony's great.
Yeah. Did you watch?
I love the part in the Casey Anthony one where she's like, the police are questioning her and she like walks them. I think she worked at Disney World or something. she like walks them in and she's like, yeah, I don't actually work here, or something like that. Like in the middle of the investigation, they're like, okay, I don't know how she didn't get convicted.
Yeah. When was that? Was that recent?
I think like maybe around 10 years ago, probably.
Okay.
5 to 10 years ago.
Because I was thinking, I was like, that was all happening when we were like watching it, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It unfolded before our eyes.
Yeah.
Casey Anthony, yeah, she was guilty for sure.
She was definitely guilty. I agree.
She was guilty, and I think there is like, what happened with the trial? Did she go
I don't
under
know if she
trial?
was acquitted.
Like, yeah, how did that work? Did she never get taken to trial?
No, she went to trial.
She did?
Yeah.
And she was innocent, not guilty?
Yeah.
Yeah, Casey said she worked at Universal and walked police around when she never worked there.
That's crazy.
It was so good. Hung jury.
Hung jury. Okay.
I tried to watch the Adnan Syed one, but I couldn't get into it. Yeah, the HBO documentary was just so bad.
All right. My theory is the resort scattered her out. It was probably obvious to the workers that the kids were alone, and she's the one they wanted. It seems most likely the parents did it. Casey Anthony's case was in July
She was acquitted.
of 2011. All right, guys, this was a good one, right? Did you like the joint, or do you prefer the separate? We'd love the feedback.
I think I prefer the separate just because I get to solve one case.
Yeah.
I like being on the investigating side.
And you didn't like interject as much as I thought you were. I was like ready for you to just like take over at any point.
Yeah. I guess I should have done more. I thought
No.
I really brought it with the dog information.
You did. Because so many people are stuck on that. Like I am too.
Yeah.
But I asked, I don't remember what you said, so do you believe the dogs now or not? Or do you think there's too much error in this?
I think there's a good chance. I mean, I believe the dogs in general, but thinking that there's no chance that they made a mistake, I think there's definitely a chance they made a mistake. And if they did, then what? Then what's the evidence against the family? Really nothing.
Yeah.
Except that they're just negligent parents, which I don't know. Why didn't they get tried for criminal negligence?
I don't know what the laws are in other countries. In Portugal?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of Making a Murderer? I love the first season of the show was great. Second season was just propaganda film.
Boring.
But I think he did it, and I think there's enough evidence to convict him.
Yeah, Matt didn't find a mini case this time, but next
Yeah.
time we'll come with it.
Next time. With Adnan, I think he did it, but maybe not enough evidence to convict.
He shouldn't have been convicted of first-degree murder.
Yeah.
In terms of the evidence, like regardless of whether he did it with premeditation, I don't know.
But just to note, like when I finished watching Making a Murderer, I was positive he was innocent. And then I like did more reading on it, and I'm like, what did they leave out? But it is hard to go from being 100% convinced after watching a documentary that this guy's wrongfully convicted to changing your mind. It's a hard process.
Yeah.
The Innocent Man on Netflix. We watched that one, didn't we?
We might have started it. No, we.
Oh, we started it. We didn't watch it.
Yeah. Okay. All right, guys. This was fun. We hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you
Alrighty.
later.
Next week.
Happy Hump Day.